Let's look at the financial astrology to figure out how long the current crypto downturn is going to last and which projects are going to be mostly at risk. Let's go. All right, folks, the crypto markets have been pretty tough. We have not seen a continuation of the bull trend from earlier this year, and greed has turned to fear. A lot of people are concerned. So it's time for an update on the crypto astrology. In this video, I'm going to analyze the celestial cycles to tell you what we can expect for how long the downturn is going to last. That's number one. And number two, I'm also going to look at some specific projects and some specific, pretty big projects in crypto that may be at risk during this prolonged downturn. As a third little bonus, I'm also going to talk a little bit about which coins or which sectors I see as performing well in the coming time, but that's a small aside. So let's get started. First, I just have to throw out there as well that what I'm doing here is not investment advice. As always, you should make your decisions based on your own research and your own process and blah, 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 and so on. And this is entertaining and educating and informative crypto astrology to add another perspective to you, not financial advice. So that being said, we should look at the current charts and see where things are going. If you remember my previous video, I kind of already, pointed to the downturn that we were going to see now. I even said that we might go down to the 40s, and we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're not far neither. It's kind of looks like pretty, glum and not very nice in crypto world, in the crypto markets. And what's the reason for that? Well, astrologically speaking, there isn't that much apart from the, we have the general thing of the Jupiter Saturn square, but that's a general market indicator. And the markets have not really broken down yet that much, even though people are talking about a coming recession and people are talking about things breaking down, but the S&P 500 is still going up, or not showing any major signs of weakness. And general markets have not been hit that much. So this is not really the reason that we could cite the astrological reason for why things are so slow. But as I mentioned in my previous videos, and have been mentioning since the beginning of the year really, is that Uranus rules Bitcoin and crypto, right? And Uranus is here on the star Algol right now. I don't have it in here, but it's on the 26th degree of Taurus, right? And Uranus is basically going stationary now, right? It's just going retrograde and just then turning back on Algol. Okay, Algol is a malefic fixed star. It's actually the worst fixed star that we have in fixed star astrology, amongst the worst, if not the worst, right? And what does that mean? Malefic influence basically means that when the planet is transiting that place, you're going to see the bad sides of that energy be more accentuated, as well as just, plain old the bad people, the bad guys, the ones who are trying to block advancement of humanity, right? And Bitcoin and crypto is a tool for the advancement of humanity, right? It's a tool for connecting minds and connecting people in ways that freedom from oppressive structures, right? Oppressive power structures allow people to be more entrepreneurial and more free, right? And the people who are trying to block that process, they have the upper hand. So on the one hand, that means obviously market manipulation. You're going to have lots of market manipulation, like masses of market manipulation, as long as Uranus is on Algol. And I mean, in some ways, you could have guessed this already, when people were happy about the ETFs and BlackRock coming in, the space and so on, I was already feeling like, okay, is it so? Are you going to be really happy that Larry Fink now is, and his ilk and his, people like him are now calling the shots and making the big decisions of what's going to happen to crypto, because that doesn't bode well. Those are guys that once they're in, they want it all. They want it all. Once they're in, they want everything. They want to have all of it, all the chips. You're going to go home with nothing, right? That's how they play when they play, right? So, and those are the people who are calling the shots now, who are doing the market moves. And you're going to see here, Uranus stays on Algol for a pretty long time. It goes back. It's still here, right, in November. I'm going to talk a little bit about, if this correlates with the downturn or not. There's some other factors as well. But just right now to tell you how long this is going to last, right? This time in which we're going to see more market manipulation and also more crackdowns, right? Crackdowns is the other thing, right? So crackdowns of those who are working against the advancement of humanity through this technology, they will be empowered through this time. They will do more crackdowns, right? We're going to see much more crackdowns during this time. I mentioned this in my videos even in March. In March already I was talking about this, that we're going to see much more crackdowns and much more manipulation in this cycle than before. And you see, Uranus then leaves here. It's kind of comes out of the conjunction by the end of the year, you see, and kind of we're going to get a little bit of a breather, right? We come out of the conjunction with Algol, right? Algol is here, 26, and then Uranus comes out by the end of the year. And then after that, it just turns back forward again, and the breather doesn't last long, because early, next year in spring, this is not a bad place to be for Uranus. It's kind of a little bit out of the effect, right? So from December to March, February, and then we're going to see, then it goes back onto Algol. It goes back onto Algol when here in April, right? In April, it's back right there again, directly on Algol, on the malefic influence, right? So we're going to get a breather from all of this crackdowns and manipulation for a couple of months, right? And then it's going to be there again. But the good news is that this is like the passing, this is the goodbye, right? This is like Uranus passing through and then leaving the malefic influence behind by June, okay? June next year is when we're going to be free of this, of the power of the manipulators. We're not going to be ever completely free, obviously, but at least, they're not going to have the upper hand anymore. And then in July, we see here in July, we're running into this July, we're running into this beautiful constellation here, right? With Uranus and this talent triangle, which is super unique and rare constellation, right? And this, this stands for the advancement of technologies, the advancement of consciousness, the advancement of worldviews, right? It's downloads for the collective consciousness where we can suddenly advance, very suddenly advance in our, progressive endeavors and in our endeavors that are about bringing in next level and new levels of consciousness, right? And obviously concomitantly new levels of technology. And you have Mars in here for a little very beautiful constellation as well. But the important thing is that this here, right? This, when Uranus comes out of the, not just out of the dark embrace of Algol, which is on 26 Taurus, but actually moves into here, the conjunction with Alcyone. Alcyone is another fixed star. It's on the first degree of Gemini. It's right here, okay? The first degree of Gemini. So by August of next year, right, Uranus not just moves out of the malefic star embrace, but actually moves onto Alcyone. Alcyone is one of the major royal fixed stars, which stands for elevation, okay? Great elevation and great light and great prominence in everything you do, okay? Prominence and elevation. So this is going to be a prime time, a most, auspicious prime time that you can imagine for crypto. And this is coming in August of next year, or the months before and after, summer next year, right? So summer 25, we're going to be at the peak, is what I look at as the peak for the bull run. And a couple of months before and after, usually markets respond and take some time before and after. They're not exactly on point. For instance, the last in April of 24, we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is for which time I predicted the local top, right? And the local top came in March, came like a little bit before that, right? And this is normal, right? The world and our events, and even in your lives when you have transits, things happen a little bit before, a little bit after, not just always exactly on the time of the transits, right? So next summer, obviously next summer is going to look far, far, far better, and it's going to be like a really, really good time for a top. But does this mean that we're going to be in this lull for that long? Are we going to be in this kind of lull for that long? You know, is this just going to go sideways? Is it going to go down? Well, we have some, you know, relief. And I said this in my previous video when I looked at the asteroid Satoshi as well. And by the way, before I continue on this, if you're a subscriber, make sure to hit your notification bell so that you get your notifications when I get new videos as well. A lot of subscribers miss videos because they don't do that. If you're not a subscriber yet, make sure to subscribe to this channel. We do crypto, we do lots more than that, metaphysical and spiritual and historical and world affairs and geopolitics, World War III analysis, all of that with the best tools possible and best insights possible as well. Make sure to subscribe, hit their notification bell, and we're going to continue on this video right now with looking at the downturn. As I mentioned, the downturn is, you know, only really fully out next summer, right? Next summer is going to be big for crypto, right? So this is maybe what for your long-term considerations in crypto, you know, that's already long-term. But for your considerations, you know, medium-term considerations, you may want to take that into account. But in the short term, we're coming out of we have the asteroid Satoshi, which I looked at in my previous video. It's coming out of the conjunction with Pluto as well. And that's happening towards the end of September. And we already get a little taster of this beautiful constellation here, right? Of this is really the powerful mystic revolution, the powerful consciousness revolution. I call this the a powerful consciousness revolution, right? Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. We are going into this phase of the powerful consciousness revolution, which is going to be driven strongly by technology as well, right? The next level technologies that are indicative of the next level of where humanity can go to, they will be driven forward in this constellation. And we're going to get a taster of this constellation now, basically in September, right? Late September, early October, we're going to get a nice little taster. This is almost already in perfectly in aspect here, late September, right? And at the same time, Satoshi goes out of the embrace of Pluto, the asteroid Satoshi, right? So, and also Jupiter moves a little bit away from this square with Saturn. So, which is why I have predicted a relief rally, a rally at the end of September. Right? End of September, early October, around that time, right? We should see a nice rally. And first, and secondly, we should also get a taster of the types of the narratives and the coins that are going to do really, really well at the peak of the bull run. The peak of the bull run, which, you know, in my assessment is going to be in summer 25. So pay attention to this. When you're, you know, doing your portfolio, when you're looking at your portfolio, how to rearrange, you know, how to set yourself up, which altcoins you're going to go for, which narratives, right? It's all about the narratives at the end of the day. Pay attention to which narratives are getting some traction in this relief rally, in this rally, when and if it comes, right? The next rally that comes, basically, we should pay attention to, you know, if there are specific narratives. And my estimation is that the narratives are doing really well because it fits with the archetypal signature, are going to be to do with gaming, VR, right? Metaverse, and kind of the picks and shovels for that world, right? Is AI, obviously. Is AI, you know, you use AI and GPU computation and so on, right? There's a couple of projects that are doing this engine, render. There's a lot of projects, you know, that are really, really strong and set up in order to support that kind of development, right? That kind of world. So I'm not going to go a lot into specific coins. I might do another video on this. This is not the video for it. I know some of you were waiting for that, but we need to do another video on this. I have other things to share with you in this video, some other things that I find really important and that I found, namely this downturn, right? So the downturn, again, we said I'm expecting a relief rally sometime, in the next, not very far from now, right? And then what? After that, I showed you, we're going to get a little bit of, relief for a few months where it can go up or sideways, right? But then Uranus goes back onto Algol, and we should get another crackdown and like another, another round of attacks on crypto that will be coming for crypto. Who will be attacked? Who will be doing the attacking, and who will attack, and who will maybe go down in these attacks, right? Because crypto space is never safe from even very, very big players to go down, right? And obviously who's doing the attacking is somebody who's really interesting in terms of an interesting character, and that's Gary Gensler, right? Gary Gensler, who is in charge of the SEC. And if you look at Gary Gensler's chart, right, he runs the SEC, right? The SEC is the Securities Exchange Commission that is doing all of the major kind of processes and the legal proceedings and the crackdowns against crypto, right? They're in cahoots with, the SEC is basically in cahoots with Janet Yellen and all those people, Jerome Powell and all those people who are basically the defenders of the current monetary regime, right? And again, who do they work with? All of them, their paychecks, who pays them is all the major banks, especially the traditional banks, who are playing a very kind of shady game. On the one hand, they're trying to get into crypto. On the other hand, they're trying to crack down as much as they can crypto to not lose the power, right? To not lose their power. And also on the other hand, to scoop up the remains after their destruction tour of destruction, right? And they want to keep it down, basically. They want to keep the crypto space down. They want to keep it harmless. They want to keep it as a nice little asset that they completely control, which has no power beyond, being a little diversion, right? Which they want to control, and it should have no power. That's what they want, right? For crypto. And they definitely don't want all of the decentralization and transparency and all of that stuff, all of the Web3, kind of revolutionizing finance and revolutionizing identities and all of that, right? They don't want that. They don't want that, right? They don't want it unless they can control it, unless they have a CBDC, unless they have complete control over your digital identity, right? They don't want it unless they control it. So you look at Gary Gensler's chart, and you got a guy here who is literally like, guys, this is written in the astrology, right? I'm not making this stuff up. Like, we can see whose child this is, like who he's working for, right? We can see who he's working for. He's got a Jupiter Mars conjunction, like the fighter, right? He has like a lot of energy to fight battles, especially legal battles. It's in Libra. Libra is about the law, right? And this is in a square to Uranus. He's fighting these massive, powerful battles against Uranus, against the principle of innovation, right? Square to Uranus. And then his sun is with the asteroids Lucifer and Asmodeus, directly Sun conjunct Lucifer and Asmodeus, and Industria, okay? Industria. So what is that? Lucifer and Asmodeus, right? I'll let you look up Asmodeus yourself. Who was Asmodeus? Okay, look it up, go and Google and write, who was Asmodeus, right? And this person who works basically literally for the forces that don't want to see the light spread, right? That want to monopolize the light, right? That's who he's working for. And he is cracking down on crypto with his Venus-Saturn conjunction here. You see this Venus-Saturn, right? So Venus-Saturn is the primal marker of regulation of money, right? Saturn is control and discipline and authority and laws and regulation. Venus is money, right? And he's got Masterman here. He's the master of regulations. And this is in opposition to Yen and Truth, asteroids Yen and Truth. So he's regulating the shit out of monetary resources and, the truth as well, right? He's going against the truth as well in doing that. Who is he serving? He's got Pluto with Goldman, right? Pluto is power, like is dark power, right? The dark powers that you have in your subconscious that control you somehow, and is with Goldman. Goldman, Goldman is, there's a famous bank of the same name of which he was actually he ran departments there for whatever 10, 15 years, and now he's still basically serving his buddies at Goldman. That's what he's doing. And now he's actually this guy, right? This dude who is, who has like a personal vendetta almost against crypto. He's now going through a very, good time for him. Like in terms of being top of his game, right? He's got like in this entire time when we have the downturn, right? In this entire time, he's got the Jupiter here in a trine to all of his planets, right? To all of these, what we said here, his formidable legal battles, which is Jupiter, Mars, and Libra, and his sun here, right? Who he's serving and why, right? And all of that is getting the trine here from Jupiter for several months, for this entire time, basically, right? That he's, that we're going to have these downturns, and he's going to go hard against people. He's going to go really hard in the coming months. Maybe add to that as well that, he might not be in power after November 5th, after, Donald Trump has been made very clear that, he's going to fire him if he comes if he wins the second term. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen this way. When you look at Gary Gensler's chart alone, he seems to have a really strong time for the next 6 months coming up, including November, December, January, and even going into the new year, right? He's going to be on a roll. He's going to be on a roll. So I don't know if it's going to work out that way. Trump tried to do a lot of things which he couldn't actually. So even in his first term, even provided that he wins. So I'm not sure if it's going to work out that way. But now let me tell you about some people that Gary Gensler is going to target, right? And who might be in trouble in the coming time, right? So the first of them is actually, probably I'll start with the most important one, is CZ. Okay, CZ is already being targeted by the SEC, right? The Binance is already in trouble with lawsuits, and CZ, he's got like, it looks pretty, pretty dark for him right now. He's got on the one hand, he's got the Saturn opposition. Look, I'm going to go in the next months. I'm going to go into early next year, right? Early next year, which is when, what do we say? Early next year, which is when Uranus starts going back onto Algol, right? So the crackdowns are going to pick up again after some momentary relief, right? Probably for the election. After the election, starting in October, going to the election, probably some relief. But then the crackdowns are going to start again and even harder than before. And then exactly you have his sun here opposite, transiting Saturn on his, hitting his sun in opposition to his sun, right? Like being blocked and being stopped. This means being blocked and being stopped, right? And then you have Uranus squaring his Saturn, right? This means the sudden breakdown or the sudden rupture of your structures in life, right? The sudden rupture of your structures in life. If you have a transit like this, Uranus against your Saturn, like in order to do this successfully, you need to go with the flow and change your whole life and allow everything to change around you. But if you try to hold on to stuff, it might just explode, right? And we collectively, as a crypto space, we don't want Binance to explode, right? We don't want that thing that explodes to be Binance, right? But when you look at the charts, with Gary Gensler going into like the offensive, with the stars the way they look, with CZ's upcoming transits, I would perhaps not have too much of your allocations just sitting there on Binance, right? It's just like that's what I'm going to do, right? It's not advice for you in any way. It's everything I'm saying here is just what I'm doing, right? And none of it is advice for you. It's just, for you to take in and do what you want. But so that's one person. Now the next person is Michael Saylor. Okay, Michael Saylor, I don't see MicroStrategy right now necessarily being attacked by the SEC, but maybe that's just because they don't have the there's definitely lawsuits. There's a lot of lawsuits. Now Michael Saylor is going through some really hard transits as well here with Saturn coming against his Pluto and Uranus. So again, same thing, Saturn opposite Uranus, but in addition, opposite Pluto as well. And this is a long-term thing, like this going on for a while, right? Because Saturn stalls there and then goes forward, right? So Michael Saylor, he's gonna lose some money, right? He's gonna lose some money in the coming time, right? And then you got, his Pluto is here with Mercury as well. So he might be in some legal battles, right? Some intense legal battles in the coming months, right? I'm not saying, MicroStrategy is going to go down. Actually, you didn't see this right now because of where my cursor is placed, right? Where my image rather is placed. But, take my word for it. I just showed you this as well here again. So you see, this is what he's got coming up for the next coming months. And this, doesn't bode well as well for him, but it's not maybe also the most important and interesting thing, apart from what it could mean for the overall space, right? If like a huge player like MicroStrategy gets into trouble, right? Which I see as very, very likely now for the coming months. I'm not saying he's going to go down, but there's, could be some serious confrontations that he has to go through. And the other one is Richard Hart, right? Pulse chain hex, right? Richard Hart has some big trials coming up, and he's one of the people that was chosen specifically by Gary Gensler and the SEC to go after, right? And he has in his chart, he has, on the one hand, he's got this Jupiter square Saturn, right? And for him, we even know the birth time, right? So this is pretty good. This is a typical marker of legal battles, right? Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter opposite Saturn. That's legal battles, right? That everybody will tell you who knows a little bit about astrological symbolism, right? And the Jupiter goes through his 12th, right? So these are hidden, right? But he's going to have hidden backers as well, right? Jupiter in 12 is actually pretty good. It's on his moon too. He's going to have a lot of hidden supporters. He's going through this struggle right now. He's going to have a lot of support from people who don't want to be known and seen, right? This is Jupiter in 12. This means hidden supporters. Why? Because, people realize that if Richard Hart can stand up to the SEC, right? If he has the lawfare kind of power, he has the lawyers and the ammunition that he needs to stand up to and shoot back, right? It's going to be good for the crypto space, right? A lot of people probably realize that. A lot of big people, whales, realize that, and he's going to have supporters, right? He's already loaded himself, but he's going to have supporters in this battle, right? He's not going there alone. And that being said, apart from this transit, then actually, for the coming time, he has some very positive transits. Jupiter going to go on his ascendant. And I'm not seeing much else. Yeah, okay, you got the Pluto here in the 8th house too, which is also, right, legal battles or transformations of intense nature around money, right, around the 8th house. And you got Saturn going through his 10th as well, which is limiting your social reach and your social kind of impact, right? He's also kind of gone a little bit into seclusion throughout this time, right? With Saturn being on top. And I think the negative and the positive aspects kind of keep each other in check in his case, right? Because you also have here the Uranus trining his Saturn, his natal Saturn at the same time as this going on throughout this phase. So I don't think that they're going to be able to take him out. And he might actually be able to gain some important strategic victories in this coming time against the SEC. So the chart looks kind of mixed, but anyways, for price, it doesn't make a big influence. It doesn't have a big influence on price necessarily. People get sued all the time in the crypto space. It kind of comes with the territory. From the people that I looked at and from the charts that I looked at, the one that looks most worrying is Binance, is CZ, right? So maybe have some caution there when dealing with that platform. Obviously, if Binance, something happens to Binance, it would be really bad for the space. And that could have kind of, unfortunately, it would fit the signature of the Uranus on Algol, right? And the downturns and the crackdowns and all of the bad stuff that I mentioned. Now, this has been a long video. We're going to keep it at this. I am open for consultations. If you want to work with me, you can find the links and you can find me. And we can do much more detailed analysis of assets as well, and asset strategies, and finding your best times and your best rhythms for when to develop your portfolio, how to develop your portfolio, how to spread it, and so on and so forth. Risk assessment, global moving around different locations on the planet. This changes the energy totally. If you go into a different location, you might be much more successful in one location as opposed to the other. We can do that as well. And much more you can find on the website. You can find more details on the website. And if you want to see more in this space, I know I still have to do a video on altcoins and on allocation and on specific projects that look interesting. Until then, until I do that, actually give me some insights in the comments on which projects you'd like to see, because I want to collect a whole bunch of projects that I know people are interested in, and then we're going to look at those all together in one video. So if you have altcoins that you're interested in, because doing the altcoin chart is not, you don't just look at the asset chart. You have to look at the chart of the founders, at the white paper, at the foundation, the organization. There's just so much you have to take into account if you want to get a full picture, right? So let me know which projects you're specifically interested in, and I'm going to make a collection of those. And at some point, in the coming weeks, I'm going to do a more kind of deep dive focus on altcoins as well. Until then, until the next time, be well and be blessed.